Unseen for hours, this touching moment transformed when a billionaire discovered her hidden story. Rain blurred the windows of the diner, a cozy sanctuary amidst the storm. Sarah wiped down the counter, her thoughts racing as she scanned the meager tips from the previous shift. Every dollar counted, reminding her of the bills stacked high on her kitchen table and the dreams she had tucked away, like the brushes resting beside her canvas. Each day blended into the next, choreographed chaos of orders and laughter, but deep down, Sarah felt the weight of unrealized potential pressing on her chest. She had a talent for painting, a passion simmering behind the apron of a waitress. But like many artists, she had learned to stifle her ambition for the sake of practicality. As the clock ticked towards her short break, she sighed and set her brush to a fresh canvas hidden beneath the booth. The flickering light above cast uneven shadows, but in that small moment, surrounded by familiar sounds of clinking cups and murmurs, she found solace. Pulling the brush along the surface, her heart echoed with a familiar frustration. She longed to create, to express, yet questions gnawed at her. Would pursuing art mean abandoning Emily? What if her dreams remained unfulfilled, just another casualty in the balancing act of motherhood? A loud bell chimed at the door, jangling her thoughts. Jonathan, a sharply dressed stranger, entered. He snagged her attention, not only for his appearance but the aura of confidence he exuded. With a wave of unease, Sarah forced a smile as he ordered coffee, but her thoughts wandered back to her painting. She had to finish before the next rush. Yet, she felt the weight of the world hovering, a creeping anxiety about being seen and uncovered in a way she had never intended. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Jonathan's gaze landed on her, curious now, seemingly captivated by a hidden story he found compelling. Sarah's heart raced. Did he see her struggle? Could he tell that beneath the surface of this waitress lay a woman yearning for something more? The sensation of being watched tightens her muscles. Art, her untouched sanctuary, suddenly felt exposed to scrutiny. What if he didn't approve? She feared he might see her as just another dollar sign or charity case instead of the fierce mother supporting her daughter while nurturing her dreams. Did she dare risk it? But the thought of an opportunity, a chance to showcase the flickers of excellence she kept hidden, hollowed out her resolve. As their conversation unfolded, she felt the rhythm of her heart quickening. Was he genuinely interested in her story, or was it merely an act of whimsy? Regardless, his questions echoed in the corners of her mind, igniting doubt about her place in the world of art versus life's practicalities. The canvas in front of her felt simultaneously like a symbol of her potential and a reminder of her failures, casting a long shadow over her spirit. Just when Sarah thought she might simplify everything with the idea of pursuing her passion, a jolt of fear gripped her. Exploring an unexpected discovery about her long-lost family home threatened to upend her already fragile existence, drawing both emotional pressure and the looming dread of what risks she could take with Jonathan at her side. Would unveiling this chapter reveal the worth she sought, or further entangle her in the tension between painting her dreams and living for Emily? As the emotional turmoil surged, Sarah's heart raced faster, teetering on the brink of a decision that could change everything forever. The diner buzzed with life, clattering dishes and laughter blurring into an almost hypnotic hum as Sarah refocused her thoughts on Jonathan's intrigued expression. His interest felt like a spotlight illuminating the shadows of her self-doubt. Jonathan wasn't just a stranger, he represented an unpredictable variable in the carefully calculated equation of her life. What if she took a step towards something beyond the grease-stained apron and daily grind? "Have you painted lately?" he asked, the question brimming with genuine curiosity. The laugh that escaped Sarah's lips sounded more like a nervous exhale than a response. "Not really. Just a hobby, you know." She busied herself with a coffee pot, heart rate escalating as she weighed the impact of her words. Was it just a hobby? Or had she allowed her fears to silence the artistry that once filled her soul? Jonathan leaned forward, his eyes narrowing slightly as if dissecting her. I don't believe that. I see passion when you talk about it. It's more than a hobby, isn't it? What was it he saw? She couldn't shake the feeling that he was peeling back layers she didn't want to expose. Could he really grasp the struggle, the sacrifices? It stirred something deep within her, a mix of hope and dread. As he continued, animated and sincere, she found herself captivated. In him, she sensed a willingness to understand her chaos rather than just observe it. Maybe you should have a show, Jonathan suggested, his words igniting a spark of excitement and terror. The idea of standing in front of a crowd, offering pieces of her heart for judgment, struck her like a jolt of electricity. Really? You think people would actually come? The thought filled her with both excitement and a rush of panic. What if she failed? What if she succeeded, and this newfound hope unraveled her careful life? Of course they would. You don't know what you're capable of until you share it. His conviction resonated, igniting a flicker of ambition in her chest, but the wave of potential crashed into the stark reality of Emily's needs. With the clock ticking relentlessly towards closing time, the gravity of her responsibilities settled heavily on her shoulders. As Sarah glanced at Jonathan, she was confronted with both a golden opportunity and the looming figure of her daughter. She would have to balance the fragility of their situation with this new, tantalizing dream that beckoned her. What about Emily? She blurted, the practicality of motherhood snatching at her optimism. I can't just disappear into the art world. I need to be there for her. Having dreams doesn't make you absent, Jonathan reassured her, his voice steady and calming. It could inspire her. Don't underestimate the power of showing her what it means to follow your passion. His words hung in the air, stirring something lost deep inside her. There was a truth within them, a reminder that nurturing her own dreams didn't equate to abandoning Emily. The two could coexist if she dared to believe. But the anxiety of facing art in its honesty, its rawness reminded her of every moment she'd hidden her talent away. As the rain drummed against the window, a newfound resolve began to form. The canvas before her disappeared, replaced by vivid images of exhibitions, conversations with art lovers, and finally, a voice voicing the passion that had long been silenced, yet, her emerging desire trembled in the face of reality. The risk felt palpable, a tightrope between aspirations and anxieties. Could she truly juggle her responsibilities while kindling the desire to paint again? The canvas of her life threatened to rip if she stretched too far. Just before she could articulate her swirling thoughts, the diner door swung open, and in walked a familiar face, her estranged mother. The woman she had wanted silence from loomed, casting a shadow over the tentative light of progress she had recommenced. As Sarah's heart sank with the weight of confrontation, her mind raced. Was it time to resolve the threads of her past, or would it pull her away from the bright prospects shimmering ahead? The moment of reconciliation stood before her, both terrifying and stirring. What answer would her heart give? The atmosphere shifted, the cheerful buzz of the diner fading into a heavy silence as Sarah's gaze locked onto her mother. A rush of memories flooded her mind, the long silence that followed the last argument, the bitter words exchanged, the hurt that necessitated distance. Now, standing only a few feet away, her mother appeared older, but the familiar flicker of stubbornness remained. Is that you, Sarah? Her mother's voice trembled, edged with uncertainty. It took Sarah a moment to respond, her mind tangled between resentment and a yearning for connection. Here was a fork in the road, one direction promising resentment and closure, the other, vulnerability and potential for understanding. Yeah, it's me, Sarah replied, her voice strained as she masked her tumultuous thoughts. The initial push to turn away faded quickly, a quiet rebellion against her taciturn self. What had been so easily dismissed now felt like a heavy weight, drawing her in. Jonathan's gaze darted between the two women, sensing the tension tangling in the air. While his presence was comforting, the reality of her past loomed large, a shadow threatening to swallow her newfound momentum. "Why are you here?" The words tasted bitter on her tongue, and she wished she could pull them back as soon as they escaped. But they needed to be said. "I wanted to come see you. I've missed you," her mother answered softly, vulnerability threading through her tone. It punctured the defenses Sarah had built, surprising her. "Missed me? Or missed how I made you look?" Sarah's voice sharpened despite her best intentions. Each word felt like a knife, reflecting years of pent-up frustration. Confrontation had always been easier when there was distance, her mother flinched, eyes glistening with unshed tears. "I was wrong to push you away. I thought you'd find happiness away from me." The fight within Sarah's heart warred with a longing for reconciliation. Her art dreams began to intertwine with this moment. Could she allow this pain to shape her renewed self? Or would it suffocate the flickering flame of ambition that Jonathan had reignited? As silence settled, a memory tugged at her painting on warm summer mornings, lost in colors and strokes. It was a reminder of why she had chosen to step away, but perhaps, it was also indicative of what she had lost, not only the art but the chance to mend ties that once mattered deeply. Did her mother's presence signal a chance at redemption, or would it become a distraction from her goal? "Don't you want to know how Emily is?" Her mother questioned, brows knitting together, concern seeping through. The mention of Emily crushed against Sarah's chest, its weight laden with both love and protectiveness. "She's fine, but this isn't about her. It's about us." Seeing her mother shrink slightly, a habit honed from years of regrets, made Sarah's resolve waver. Vulnerability brushed her heart, mixed with ambition. Someone had to step forward. Jonathan, sensing the shift, gently rested his hand on her arm, an anchor in the emotional tempest swirling around her. "For every color you mix, there's a story," he interjected quietly. "What story are you going to choose to paint now?" In that moment, she realized the power of acceptance, the fragile balance of paving her path while reconciling with the past. A surge of possibility rushed through her. There was something exhilarating about the idea of intertwining her growth with what lay unresolved. "What story do you want to tell, Sarah?" Jonathan's question lingered in the air as she faced her mother, ready for a future that balanced her dreams and her history, but as she opened her mouth, unsure if she was ready for the answer, the diner door swung open again. A figure strode in, wearing an expression of urgency. Recognizing him sent a jolt of shock through her former art mentor, the one whose rejection had hurt her deeply. Would he reignite old wounds, or could he provide the guidance she craved? As her heart raced, Sarah felt the gravity of her choice solidifying, a reckoning on the horizon. What was she willing to confront next? Recognition flashed in Sarah's mind as her former mentor, Daniel, scanned the diner with a mix of surprise and concern. The last time they had spoken, his words had turned her dreams into ash, haunting her with unfulfilled potential. The past slammed against her consciousness, igniting insecurities that threatened to choke her resolve. The diner's warmth felt stifling now. Her breath came shallow, caught between the sinking dread of confrontation and a flicker of excitement at the opportunity for guidance, should she dare to reach out. Would he still view her as the failed artist he had admonished, or could he see the flicker of passion igniting anew? "Sarah." His voice cut through the air like a sharp blade, and suddenly, all eyes in the diner seemed to turn toward her. It was as if every slice of her past had convened here at this very moment, entangled with her present. With each step he took toward her, a battle raged inside. Should she reveal the scars of rejection or mask her vulnerability with a facade of strength? "Daniel," she finally managed, her heart thumping in rhythm with the pulse of uncertainty. It was a single word heavy with years of disappointment and aspiration. "I didn't expect to see you here," he said, his gaze drifting to her mother, then back to Sarah, assessing the tension mounting between them. There lay the silence that bloomed with unspoken words. She felt the walls of her carefully constructed defenses quiver. He approached, beckoned by the memories they shared, the critiques he had offered, the advice that had once meant everything to her. But was he coming to offer guidance or simply to chastise her for not living up to his standards? Your exhibit, he continued, the innate elegance of his voice weaving through her trepidation. I heard about it. I heard about you. His eyes flickered with something more than mere curiosity. Was it admiration? It felt intoxicating, and for a fleeting moment, the fear dissipated. However, the shadows of their last encounter warned her not to get ahead of herself. Thanks, Sarah replied, the tightness in her throat reminding her of what had been whispered in her head for years. She had failed to find her footing since their last argument. Your work, Daniel said, his tone shifting, has evolved. I can see it. The passion is there. You've rediscovered your voice. With each word, he drew her back to the canvas of her youth, where she had splashed colors in defiance and bliss. But the insistence that echoed within pushed back. Was this real praise, or merely a ploy to manipulate her emotions, a way to reclaim the position he once held in her life? You told me I'd never make it, remember? She dug deep, a mix of challenge and curiosity threading her voice. The weight of those words hung between them. I did, he admitted, an openness that rolled over her like the tide. It was wrong of me. I let my own bias cloud my vision of what you could become. The conversation had warped time itself, exposing the vulnerability she had tried to forget. Sarah felt her mother's eyes on her, and for a moment she hesitated, gauging which relationship mattered more. Would choosing to engage with Daniel reinforce her commitment to reclaiming her artistic journey, or merely propagate old wounds? Why now? She questioned, daring herself to look deeper into his intentions. What do you want from me after all this time? At that moment, her resolve fortified. Just as she contemplated her own worth, she realized this was not just about Daniel, it was about reclaiming her narrative. This conversation could very well be a key to unlocking the next chapter of her journey, a reconstruction of her artistry and herself. I see a spark in you that I couldn't see before, Sarah, Daniel replied earnestly. I want to help you refine it. You've been hiding for too long. Behind him, her mother's presence wavered somewhere between encouragement and concern. It felt like they were both waiting for her decision, understanding the weight of her next move. It was a pivotal choice, the crossroads echoing loudly in her heartbeat. Was she ready to embrace the guidance that could bridge gaps in her self-discovery? Would she be able to accept his mentorship without getting entangled in past grievances? As those thoughts churned within, her eyes drifted to Jonathan, who reassured her with a small nod, silently encouraging her to seize the opportunity. The urgency of these converging moments has never felt sharper, the recognition of her potential, the lingering hurt from her mother, and now an unexpected offer from Daniel. A choice lay ahead, not just between embracing her mentor or discarding him, but redefining the artist she aspired to become in light of her experiences. But the clarity of her decision remained shrouded, as unexpected emotions clawed at her, fighting for dominance. Will you teach me? Sarah finally asked, her pulse quickening with both trepidation and exhilaration. In her heart, she questioned whether this choice would lead her back to the path she had strayed from or further down a road of regret. The diner faded into the background, becoming a vessel of potential as their conversation unfolded. However, just when she thought the dialogue could lead her toward clarity, a loud crash pierced the moment, scattering glasses and silverware, sending her spiraling back into a place where her choices would be tested once again. What awaited her in the chaos that now threatened to consume their fragile connection? The sound of shattering glass jolted Sarah from her introspection, an abrupt intrusion that luminously highlighted her vulnerability. For a brief instant, the chaotic din of the diner engulfed her, the warmth of Daniel's offer dissolving into an unrecognizable haze of noise and confusion. Her thoughts fractured alongside the fallen objects, each shard reflecting pieces of herself she had long tucked away. Are you okay? Jonathan's voice was sharp, pulling her attention back to the spinning world around them. The concern etched on his face sent a rush of clarity through her muddled mind. This wasn't just a meeting with an old mentor, it was an opportunity to reclaim her narrative, one that seemed perilously close to slipping through her fingers. Yeah, I'm fine. The words felt disjointed, a thin veneer protecting her from the storm brewing inside her. Yet Daniel's presence remained a solid anchor, a reminder that growth often emerged from the wreckage. She caught a glimpse of his own reaction, worry mingled with the anticipation of something significant unfolding. The diner staff hurried to clean the mess, and instinctively, she stood up, the noise beckoning parts of her to act. Let us go somewhere quieter, Sarah suggested, casting a glance at her mother, whose bewildered expression mirrored a tangle of emotions: concern, hope, and fear. Daniel nodded, stepping aside to allow her a path forward. Their steps felt synchronized, almost as if each was instinctively responding to the other's inner dialogue. As they moved toward a booth in the back corner, Sarah risked a look over her shoulder at Jonathan, seeking comfort in his stabilizing presence. Once settled, the noise of the diner dulled, and the atmosphere transformed. The chaos that had erupted outside their booth turned into a self-contained bubble. The walls felt closer, the living chaos beyond them a world far removed. It was just the three of them, bound by unspoken potential. Sarah, you are right to be cautious, Daniel said, his voice softer now, stripped of its earlier formality. I know my words affected you deeply, but I hope to guide you through this, not lead you down a path of regret. His willingness to address the past felt like a sincere olive branch extended between them. She could see the sincerity etched in the lines around his mouth, the intensity in his gaze. There was no hiding what their history was. Each word they exchanged a confrontation with that very past. Why did you come back now? She couldn't let the moment slip away without addressing the core of her tumultuous feelings. You doubted me once. True, and I misjudged you in ways I didn't fully understand. His admission twisted in her gut, both painful and liberating. I see the changes you've made since then, and I believe you've evolved beyond that doubt. You have an opportunity in front of you, and I want to help you harness it. The directness of his request forced her to confront her own shortcomings. Did she want to rebuild from the ashes, or would she continue to let fear dictate her choices? The possibilities felt vast yet daunting. The weight for her response extended like a taut string ready to snap. Sarah felt the delicate weight of this moment, a siren call urging her to step toward uncertainty. You once told me that I lacked focus, she ventured, her voice barely rising above a whisper. How can I trust you now? Is this your way of trying to control me again? That fear is justified, he acknowledged, his expression unexpectedly woven with empathy. The last thing I want is for you to feel constrained. I want to teach you to stand tall and own your artistry, to find your voice within your own terms. Every word danced on the precipice of her reality, each stirring potential buried deep within, but doubt clung to her like a suffocating shroud. Could she truly step into a space of vulnerability again, or would she merely end up retracing her steps? Then the weight of her mother's gaze wrapped around her, demanding her attention with its intensity. For too long, Sarah had been torn between the two foundations. She was navigating the artistic journey she had longed for and the familial expectations constantly looming in the background. Fine, then tell me what I need to do. The challenge bubbled out of her with newfound fervor. Whatever legacy she chose to forge, she wanted agency over it. The turmoil swirling in her chest began shifting into a steely resolve. How do you plan on helping me? I want to curate a project, a real challenge. I'll guide you through the process, but the core must come from you, he replied, the conviction in his tone emboldening her. A showcase of your work but grounded in your experiences. This is how I see your artistry manifesting again. But what if it fails? The question hung heavier than the silverware strewn across the floor earlier, a tangible fear anchoring her voice. Daniel met her gaze with calm certainty. What if it succeeds? His words were like a rope thrown into turbulent waters, promising a chance for rescue. Yet, just as she felt the edges of her resolution solidifying, a sudden commotion erupted at the entrance. A figure clashed with the customers, a sharp reminder that chaos loomed just beyond their enclave. Sarah's resolve rippled again, not merely tested but lifted to face whatever storm lay ahead. Would she allow herself to journey into the unknown, fully trusting in the shadows of the past, under the mentorship she once so feared? As the figure neared, obscure details began crystallizing in her mind. The approaching chaos had taken on a familiar form, one that could either ignite her journey or douse her burgeoning flame. Was the storm about to extinguish her chance at rebirth, or would it serve as the catalyst she needed to rise once more? A frigid burst of air cut through the din of the diner as the figure stepped closer, revealing a face Sarah felt a twinge of recognition for. Her heart raced, a reckless drumbeat in her chest as old memories clawed at her conscience. A moment of hesitation held her captive, trapped between fear and indignation. This person embodied everything she'd once tried to escape. "Is that really you, Sarah?" the figure called out, voice dripping with mock surprise. It was Rachel, a ghost from a past Sarah wished to bury deeply, who had never shied away from questioning Sarah's choices and ambitions. The warmth she had felt moments ago ebbed as Rachel approached, her presence more suffocating than comforting. "Why are you here?" Sarah managed to force the words out, her indignation piercing through her apprehension. It was as if Rachel's very existence challenged her budding resolve to reclaim her narrative. "Just passing through," Rachel replied, with a casual flick of her hair that felt intended to provoke. "But I couldn't miss the chance to see how the artist is doing. Heard some gossip about you making waves again." That word hung in the air like a challenge. Waves. Sarah had spent years trying to get over the ripples of her past, and here was this tidal wave threatening to drown her anew. She exchanged a glance with Jonathan, seeking solace in his unwavering gaze. In that moment, she realized how far she had come. She wasn't that young woman riddled with self-doubt anymore. "Let me be clear," Sarah said, her voice steady and fierce. "This is my moment. You don't have power over me anymore. I'm not interested in your opinions." The statement felt monumental to her spirit, the words resonating like a truth she had only just discovered. Rachel's surprise morphed into a smirk. "Cute. But can you really stand up to the judgment of your peers? I've heard nothing but whispers of your inconsistency." Again, Sarah wrestled with the rising tide of doubt that threatened to engulf her. What if Rachel was right? The thought beckoned her into a pit of insecurity, but she clamped down on it, recalling Daniel's words about owning her artistry. Reclaiming her story meant standing firm against these shadows, no matter how insipid they appeared. "Judgment is subjective," Sarah countered, the conviction heating her language. "You don't define my journey, and neither does anyone else. I'm going to embrace this challenge for myself." Daniel's approval lingered in her mind, a quiet reminder of her goal. She had to focus on the project he envisioned, on creating a showcase that would exemplify her growth. The facade of Rachel's disdain now seemed flimsy, it was merely another obstacle meant to derail her from making strides on her path. "Fine, play the wounded artist role," Rachel said with a dismissive flick of her hand, as if brushing away a pesky fly. "But when you crash and burn, don't say I didn't warn you." As Rachel turned to leave, the harsh grip of dread still squeezed Sarah's heart. Yet, she felt something shift inside her. The conversation was no longer about Rachel's judgment, it was a revelation about her own strength. With each shallow breath, she grounded herself in realization. "You don't have to watch," Sarah called out defiantly, surprising even herself. "You'll see when I rise up and claim my space. You'll be a footnote in my story, not the chapter." Jonathan's eyes widened with admiration for her unexpected fortitude, while Daniel's expression was charged with pride. Perhaps she could navigate this minefield of self-doubt after all, armed with the knowledge that her voice mattered. With Rachel gone and the tension still lingering thick in the air, Sarah turned to Daniel, ready for clarity. "What's next?" she asked, eager to plunge deeper into her own truth. "You need to channel this anger into your art," each brushstroke a response. "Tap into these experiences, show them the real you," Daniel replied, his voice inspiring both trepidation and exhilaration. Then the weight of uncertainty clicked back into place. Could she truly make her past part of her work? Without drowning in it? It was time for a new direction, but the route ahead remained shrouded in ambiguity. As they began to map out her plans, Sarah felt the embers of her determination flare. Would she find the courage to intertwine her truth with her art, or would she succumb to the fears that lurked just beneath the surface? The question lingered, a specter in her creative process, as new challenges awaited. Suddenly, her phone buzzed, the alert pulling her from her thoughts. A message appeared from an unknown number. I need to talk about your project. There is something you don't know. Her heart raced again, igniting a fresh wave of curiosity mixed with anxiety. What secret lay hidden in this message? Was it a step towards something that could elevate her journey or another trap set to ensnare her? The words on her phone illuminated a cryptic tension that twisted in Sarah's gut. An unknown number, typically a harbinger of solicitation or, worse, a reminder of old entanglements. Yet her fingers hovered over the screen, the urge to know what lay beyond those words overpowering her trepidation. Would this be the insider insight she craved that might help center her project? Or another misguided attempt to undermine her endeavors? Are you going to read it? Jonathan asked, his voice breaking into her spiraling thoughts. I will, she replied, trying to sound more resolute than she felt. Time ticked away in anxious bursts as she read the message again, parsing the words, searching for hidden meaning. With a deep breath, Sarah composed herself, casting a deliberate glance at Daniel, who was observing her closely. Each subtle expression of his conveyed an unspoken understanding. He was ready for whatever she chose to unleash. Almost instinctively, she could sense the stakes rising, not just for the project at hand, but for an internal reckoning she must face. The thought that loomed was almost suffocating. How could she flourish as an artist if constant shadows from her past remained? Yet now, feeling her strength as fortified against Rachel's taunts, she knew one thing: she had a choice. The choice was at least partly her own to make, and she wasn't ready to shy away from that. I have to know, she finally murmured, with determination coursing through her veins. Gritting her teeth indelibly, she replied to the text, Who is this? What do you want to talk about? As her finger hovered over the send button, she felt the weight of past fears and future anxieties meld together, forming a potent mixture of hope and uncertainty. In this moment of decision, she was no longer the hesitant girl intimidated by judgment. She was weaving her own narrative, boldly reaching into the unknown. Sarah. Jonathan's voice snapped her back. What are you thinking? Just giving myself a voice again, she said, the words anchoring her resolve. Whatever this is meant to be, it's going to serve my purpose. In that instant, she visualized her canvas. The colors merging, chaotic yet beautiful, portraying a reflection of her numerous battles. This unknown dialogue could serve as a portal to more stories, a gem hidden within the cracks of her experience, wrapped around the very sincerity she'd long fought to uphold. The evening sun dipped lower, casting elongated shadows across the diner, an echo of shadows she had long battled. Each corner carried an ambience of potential, the energy subtly shifting from wary to eager. Inspired, she resolved to channel this freshness into her art, letting the looming possibilities transform into tangible forms. Let us do it, she said, more to herself than to Jonathan, yet he nodded as if he understood. The pace felt urgent, and her anxieties morphed into curiosity. This secret held the potential to unlock parts of herself that she had scarcely touched upon, to reveal layers of vulnerability she was finally prepared to showcase. They returned to her sketches, the process now invigorated by an unshakable intention. Each brush stroke would become a declaration of her journey, the colors reflecting the duality of fear and triumph, shadowed memories and bright futures. An email notification pinged, her heart quickening again. A reply from the unknown number flickered against the screen. Meet me at the old gallery tomorrow at noon. I have something important to discuss that could change everything for you. Sarah's breath hitched but steadied as clarity surged through her. This was a gamble, but one she was willing to take. She considered the various shifts waiting for her in the unknown. Would this rendezvous offer her pivotal insight, or plunge her back into the depths of her insecurities? The story was still hers to tell, and she felt more prepared than ever to embrace whatever unfolded next. This time, she must face it head-on, not running from the shadows but using them to illuminate her path. With the newfound determination swelling inside of her, Sarah realized the importance was not merely the answer itself, but who she'd become in pursuit of it. And so, she took a deep breath, clutching her phone tightly. Let us find out what this is all about, she whispered, ready to step forward into the uncertain light of tomorrow. Yet as anticipation ignited within her, an undeniable fear crept back in. What if this meeting revealed pieces of her past she'd rather forget? What truth awaited her that could redefine everything she thought she knew? The question lingered on the horizon, a storm behind her courageous resolve. As dawn broke over the city, a narrow band of light leaked through Sarah's curtains, casting an ethereal glow that danced across her sketches. She lay in bed, contemplating the day ahead, her pulse quickening with the image of the unknown sender and the impending meeting at the old gallery. It was time to rediscover the artist she had almost lost to the echoes of nostalgia. She had to confront her fears head-on, letting them fuel her creativity rather than crippling it. The memories that usually cast shadows on her spirit now transformed into a palette of emotions she could splatter across her canvas: anger, passion, regret. Each brushstroke became a declaration of intent, a living testament to her journey and growth. In the mirror, she studied her reflection. The woman staring back had the determination etched into her features, yet she felt fragile, as if any moment might shatter her resolve. Today was not simply about the stakes of her artistic project but also about sowing seeds of liberation from her past. What if this meeting acted as a turning point? What if it unlocked creativity she didn't know she possessed? Sarah's thoughts swirled, and she indulged in the image of victory against the ghosts haunting her. She doubted herself only momentarily before wrapping herself in a thick shawl, her armor against the chill of uncertainty. With a cup of coffee warming her palms, she glanced outside. A world teeming with potential awaited beyond those walls. Arriving at the gallery felt surreal. Memories flashed of the last time she had stepped through those doors, a time shrouded in disappointment and self-doubt. The foreboding brick exterior seemed to whisper her history, but today she was here for something different. Today, she was there to transform fear into opportunity. The door creaked open, revealing an intimate space awash with the scent of fresh paint and polished wood. She felt a rush of nostalgia mixed with resolve. The old gallery wasn't merely a building, it was a repository of stories, creativity, and the whispers of artists long gone. In that moment, she allowed herself to inhale the atmosphere. As she moved deeper into the gallery, she spotted an older man silhouetted against a wall adorned with abstract paintings. There was a rustic charm to him, an air of confidence merged with an inquisitiveness that piqued her interest. "Are you Sarah?" he asked, his voice rich and warm, cutting through her thoughts. "Yes," she replied, her heart racing as she stepped forward. "I'm David," he introduced himself, extending a hand. "I've followed your work, and I believe you carry a story worth telling, one that could impact more than just your art." The gravity of his words struck her, and within the depths of them, she sensed a compelling challenge. Would she reveal the fuller weight of her narrative, or skirt past the pain that was woven into it? The space between them felt electric, buzzing with unsaid truths and unspoken fears. "I'm intrigued." "What do you mean by that?" she asked, skepticism coloring her tone yet edged with curiosity. He smiled knowingly, as though he could see right through her protective walls. "Art isn't just about technique. It's about transformation. The true essence comes from raw vulnerability. Your experiences, the hardships, the struggles, those warrant a voice that could resonate on levels deeper than you may realize." In that moment, Sarah's heart raced, caught between exhilaration and unease. Was she prepared to expose herself so openly? The prospect sent ripples of anxiety through her. Yet, the longing for authenticity flashed brightly. What if this was the crucible she needed to redefine her existence and her art? "I'm willing to explore that," she said slowly, her voice steadier than she felt. "But it's not easy to confront everything." David nodded knowingly, a spark igniting in his eyes. "The hardest paths lead to the most profound revelations. Let us begin this journey together." His words stirred something deep within her, a flicker of possibility she so desperately sought. Her past may be an enemy. But perhaps, with the right guidance, it could also be a steadfast ally. As they conversed further, Sarah began to unravel the intricate threads of her own truth, feeling the weight of her story building into something tangible. In that very exchange, she was not just a painter, she was a storyteller rediscovering the narrative that had so long eluded her grasp, but as their conversation deepened, a sense of warning lingered in the air. What obstacles could arise from awakening her narrative? Would her past retaliate, or would it merely strengthen her resolve? Sarah found herself trapped in endless possibilities, with uncertainty lurking at the edges. With the sun now climbing high, illuminating the gallery's once subliminal shadows, Sarah understood that the revelations could lead her to triumph or unravel her entirely. But there was no turning back now. She was ensnared in the allure of discovery, ready to confront whatever lay ahead. "Let us see where this takes us," she declared, smile tipping the corners of her lips, her spirit alight with a swirling combination of fear and hope. Today, she would either find freedom or face one more battle, and with David by her side, she felt strangely prepared. Just as they delved deeper into the walls of confessions, a knock on the gallery door interrupted. The sound echoed within, a disquieting reminder that outside forces could still gatecrash her journey. What awaited in the unknown beyond those walls? More than secrets, perhaps the very confrontation she sought. David's expression shifted to apprehension as he moved towards the door, his eyes narrowing in contemplation before he spoke. "You wait here." His voice held an authority that momentarily quieted Sarah's racing mind. She nodded, though a part of her longed to follow. The air felt heavy, laden with expectation and unvoiced dread. As he opened the door, a burst of street noise filtered in, but it was quickly replaced by a tense silence. Sarah strained to hear the muffled exchange between David and a figure outside. She couldn't quite make out the words, but the energy pulsating through the gallery shifted, thickening like fog. David's posture was guarded, a stark contrast to the open demeanor he had shown her only moments before. Intrigued and apprehensive, she remained rooted by the far wall, shadows of her own history creeping back in. What if this encounter disrupted the delicate balance of her aspirations? A few moments passed, and David returned, his brow creased. "It appears my past has caught up with me," he said, his tone laced with bittersweet resignation. "A former colleague is here, someone I had hoped to move beyond. But perhaps this is providence, it's a conversation I need to have." Sarah's heart quickened. The weight of his implication hung heavy in the air. Could this disruption affect her journey? She felt an urge to comfort him, to reassure him that confrontations could foster growth, but her own insecurities gnawed at her. "Are you all right?" she asked, the concern in her voice surprising her. David nodded. "I will be. Just a moment." He took a deep breath, steeling himself before stepping back toward the door. Her instincts screamed at her to scream out, to stop him from facing whatever lay beyond, but she stayed silent, captivated by the intensity of the moment. As he stepped outside, Sarah was engulfed by a sudden rush of fear. The gallery was alive with potential, and yet the reality of her own vulnerabilities loomed larger. Here she was, on the brink of raw self-exploration, and complications threatened to complicate the very foundation of her emotional journey. She recalled the idea of transformation that David had shared. Did it really require a confrontation with the past, even one she wasn't directly involved in? The tension crackled in the air, forming a cocoon around her as time stretched and warped. When David finally returned, his expression was a mixture of weariness and renewed purpose. "It's done," he said, now carrying a clarity that had been missing moments before. "While some truths are difficult, confronting them helps us establish our worth." Sarah absorbed his words, the notion acting as a catalyst for her own buried fears. If David could distill his unresolved feelings into strength, surely she could confront her own. The art she envisioned wasn't solely about portraying her emotions but also about embracing the turbulence that often accompanied them. What stories had remained concealed within her, waiting for the right catalyst to surface? "Should we continue?" David asked, a flicker of determination igniting in his eyes. The question held double meaning, both for their discussion and for the broader scope of her artistic journey. With a deep breath, Sarah made her decision. "Yes. Let us continue." The words felt like a small victory, an admission that she was willing to wade into the depths of her past, channeling it into her art. However, as the two delved into deeper conversations of vulnerability and expression. Another knock rattled through the gallery, sharper and more insistent this time. Her heart leapt, anxiety twisting in her stomach. More truths would surely emerge, but would they be the keys to her artistic liberation or locks trapping her deeper into old resentments? Sarah David's tone flickered with concern, but now it felt like their conversation hung in the balance, suspended between daring exploration and the encroaching tide of past shadows. "What do we do now?" Sarah whispered, her resolve fighting against uncertainty. David turned to her, his gaze resolute. "Whatever it is, we face it. Together." As they prepared to confront whatever lay beyond the door, a question gnawed at Sarah's mind: would she emerge with the clarity and authenticity she sought, or would the confrontation crumble the fragile sense of purpose she had begun to assemble? The moment felt charged with uncertainty, a prelude to the unknown that threatened to either ignite her transformation or hold her captive in fear once more. The knock echoed for a third time, louder now, as if demanding entry. What awaited them on the other side of the door could change everything, not just for David, but for Sarah and the artist she was fighting to become. The ensuing silence after David opened the door felt suffocating. Sarah held her breath, anticipation washing over her like waves crashing on a shore eroded by the tide of uncertainty. In that instant, she was suffused with a mix of trepidation and resolve. She had come too far to retreat now. The path of self-discovery and vulnerability unfurled before her, lined with potential and overflowing with promise. As the door swung open, a familiar face filled the frame. Rachel, her old nemesis, stepped into the gallery, her confident stride oscillating between defiance and vulnerability. "I heard you were here," Rachel declared imperiously, her gaze slicing through the air around them. She had always commanded spaces with the innate ability to shift dynamics, turning the air electric with challenge. "What do you want, Rachel?" Sarah asked, the question piercing through the tension. Even with pressures mounting and shadows lurking, a sense of clarity anchored her. "I'm here to talk," Rachel stated, folding her arms defiantly. "About what?" Sarah shot back, her heart racing. The echoes of their fraught history reverberated just beneath the surface. Would this confrontation derail her progress or offer a gateway to resolute transformation? David interjected, placing a hand reassuringly on Sarah's shoulder. "It's important you both address whatever lingered between you. Confronting the past is often the key to moving forward. Would you like to discuss it with us?" He stepped back, allowing Sarah the power to define this encounter. Sarah glanced from David to Rachel, feeling emboldened by David's steadfastness. She had waited too long to reclaim her story for anyone else's whims. "I think it's time to clear the air. What do you have to say?" Rachel hesitated, caught somewhere between bravado and the weight of uncovering harsh truths. I've followed your work, and I wanted to say that maybe I misjudged you. Your art has evoked emotions I didn't expect," she admitted, a flicker of vulnerability crossing her careful facade. Surprisingly, Sarah's defenses softened at the admission. "I know we've clashed in the past, but I've worked hard to overcome the doubt you instilled in me. Your opinions once trapped me, but that's no longer my narrative." At that moment, the emotional depth of their conversation became palpable, stitching together years of complex history with newfound understanding. Every brush of camaraderie felt like an invitation to flourish. "Facing the truth about ourselves is daunting, but it's empowering," David chimed in, his presence a steady beacon. "You both have stories that interweave. Use them as brushstrokes to recreate your narratives rather than allowing remnants of pain to define you." Rachel shifted uneasily, and for a heartbeat, Sarah saw the glimmer of recognition in her eyes. "I apologize if I ever stifled your voice," Rachel finally uttered, allowing sincerity to glimmer amidst their turbulent past. "That was never my intention." Her admission sparked an alchemical reaction within the confines of the gallery. The release of years of pent-up struggles and grievances gifted Sarah renewed confidence. "I accept your apology. Let us embrace this as a turning point. Living from our past only holds us down." The weight of her words infused her with fortitude, as if every shadow that loomed now flickered like candlelight absorbing the dark. With newfound clarity and conviction, Sarah turned toward David. "Can we proceed with the project?" she asked, feeling excitement merge with purpose. David's eyes glinted with pride, affirming her journey with an earnest nod. "Absolutely. This collaboration is the beginning of a new chapter," he stated, his words buoying the room with optimism. The tension released, setting off sparks of potential as their voices intertwined. Together, they embarked on a path of creation, designing a showcase that blended Sarah's experiences with vibrant hues, each piece acting as a visceral representation of her transformation. Alongside Rachel's guidance, they incorporated the essence of their tumultuous relationship, defining their story through a tapestry of understanding. With every stroke of the brush, Sarah no longer felt paralyzed by fear. Instead, she embraced the layers that spoke of her struggles and triumphs. Her art began to transform, resonating with the authenticity and vulnerability she discovered within herself. The moment of unveiling arrived. The opening night buzzed with excitement, energy crackling in the air. Friends, family, and community members gathered, an audience that bore witness to her evolution. The display was more than just a representation of her artistry, it signified her growth and acceptance of her multifaceted identity. Each canvas narrated a different chapter of her life, stories threaded together in a vibrant interplay of color and emotion, illuminating her journey from battling inner demons to daring to embrace the light. As she stood in front of her work, the warmth of accomplishment enveloped her like a soft embrace. Her story had transformed a tapestry woven from her strength, resilience, and truth. The applause that reverberated throughout the gallery reflected not just appreciation for the art, but acknowledgement of the courageous journey she undertook. In that triumphant moment, Sarah conquered her self-doubt, realizing she had claimed her voice, her narrative, and her future. She had become the artist she was destined to be, the woman who turned every challenge into a stepping stone for success. The room rang with applause, external validation echoing the internal triumph she now cherished wholeheartedly. She stood at the precipice, confident and self-assured, ready to paint the narrative of her life one stroke at a time, amidst the boundless spectrum of possibilities awaiting her. Now is the moment to transform your journey. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, it truly makes a difference. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. You need to be part of the conversation. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to share. True fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of supporting the channel through these crucial actions.